Welcome to Steve's Cottage with Steve Horner. Steve Horner, a former radio talk show host, helps spotlight the source of today's social chaos while offering practical solutions to the problems negatively affecting you and your family. And now, here's Steve.
Wow, I tell you, it's so good to be here. Now look at me, I'm dressed casually. We've got 79 degrees and partly cloudy, a little bit of mist in the air in St. George after, seriously, several weeks over above 100, and somewhere between 103, 113 for the last several weeks. And then what's nice about St. George here in southwestern Utah is that the evenings get down to lately not much lower than the high 70s, but normally into the low 70s, and that's nice. Unlike Phoenix, where my son is, record number of days at 118, 115, and those nights don't cool off until much like lower than in the low 90s. Well, I'm Steve Horner, and welcome to Steve's Cottage. This is where idealism meets reality. You, the listeners, the followers, me, my friends, we are hellfighters. We are the lions at the gates of freedom. Wow! I feel good! I knew that I would now. I feel good! I knew that I would now. So good! So good! I got you! Whoa! Come on in, lions! We are going to defend some freedom here, and we're speaking about the source of the chaos today. So many people will say, yeah, so many dead today. Oh, boy, we got so many taxes. We got Joe Biden. He's the enemy. We've got problems here and problems there, and I'm here to solve them because I'm on the air and you're our follower, and we've got sponsors, and we don't want to offend them, and so we want to dance around all that's political niceties, and we don't want to step on anybody's toes. And so that's what handcuffs those types of people. They talk about the results, and they talk about the problems, the results and the effects of the problems, but not the source of the problems. Here I'm talking about behavior of certain people that we don't talk about in typical society. That's the problem. The problem is so many women in charge of families, in charge of communities, in charge of countries, in charge of public policy making. And women are sentimentalists. They just don't have that long-term pragmatism, understanding of cause and effect. They are sentimentalists. Ooh, that's a pretty car. That's red. I want that one. Ooh. Now the guy would come along and talk about the power, the horsepower, the transmission, what makes this a valuable purchase. And that's what we're missing. And then, of course, the age-old question and conversation of the Jewish religion and the Jewish people. Jewish people are typically liberals. Now, here on Steve's Cottage, we don't have any problem with genders or with lifestyle or races, backgrounds, religion. We don't have a problem with any of it. Bless them all. Welcome to the fold. What we do have a problem with, we lions at this gate of freedom, is their behavior. Is their behavior immoral, lewd, and destructive for society? That's the issue. It's that area of concern in which this show delves into that puts a spotlight on the cause of the chaos. It's the behavior. And you see, when you're talking about women and Jews and alphabet people and all of the other untouchables, well, they get a free pass and they get popular because of society's cowardice to spotlight their harmful policies based on their bad behavior, then, and see, there's no guts out there that will do that, except here at Steve's Cottage. And of course, you Lions, thank you for joining me. Tell your friends and go to stevehornerbooks.com. Buy one of my self-written books. Do you and your family and your friends a favor. They'll like it. It's pretty gutsy. All of my books are pretty gutsy. And and with all of this thin ice out there and America's ineptitude and inability to get on that ice for fear of losing their livelihood, their wives, their girlfriends, their spouses, their friends, then things are only going to get worse. Now, last week I told you about, let's do a little cleanup time. I told you about the slackers in America. A lot of black guys I've met, I said, well, how come you don't go to Memorial Day services? Oh, hell, this ain't my country. Yeah. Oh, well, what? And then last week, with that attitude, that could be illegals too and that kind of jazz. They come here with that entitlement mentality, which makes me really ticked. And so last week, instead of just saying, I tell them, well, why don't you pack up and leave? That's just too age old. What I should have added to that was what I do actually tell these people. Why don't you either go or become a better patriot in your own country and work to change the source of the problem, change the bill, change the statute, work to get a referendum to make the changes that you think will benefit society and you more. And typically, the guy I'm telling or the gal I'm telling this to will look at me and say, what? The hell are you talking about? You see, we're doomed. They're creatures of public schools. They're creatures of single-parent mothers. They're victims of these Orwellian terms, like. Well, let me get to that in a moment because I've got some cleanup time here too that I want to get through, and the same can be said for these illegals. Well, make the changes that you want. But no, I say get the hell back to your own country and be patriots in your own country. Clean up the crime, clean up the streets, clean up the families, clean up the schools. You've been there. You've been to my country, all sorts of crime. Hey, look at how many foes and enemies has the United States fought off over its history. I'm not going to name them now, but it goes way back. It goes way back to beating Britain off our backs during the Revolution. And then a lot of different countries tried to take us over in the meantime, and we fought them off. A lot of agendas tried to beat our democracy here in the meantime, but we fought them off. And that's what these people ought to do instead of coming to Gringo land here and leeching off of us. Another thing, I spoke of President George Washington's farewell address. And he delivered that shortly before leaving office after his second term. And in the speech, he spoke of the merits of doing trade with foreign countries, but not getting into bed with them. Well, that's a little outdated, isn't it? Isn't that a little outdated? See, now we're in bed with the rest of the world, with the UN and with NATO. And last week I gave you an example of being in bed with France and Britain, and you're probably going, "What?" Well, yeah, France and Britain. UN, NATO members, they get in trouble, either by their own dereliction or fault or malice. We're there to support them. That's what George Washington said was going to get us in trouble. And so now, because of the Eisenhower plan, because of the MacArthur plan, the Johnson plan, the Kennedy plan, the dipshit plan, you see, all these different plans to fight adversaries of other countries, whether they initiate the problem or not, like Israel stepping all over Palestine since 1946, 47, the years of my birth. All my life, I've had to put up with these lies and the support of malice and encroaching in the Middle East. And so that's another Orwellian term, Jew. Did you just say? Yeah, Jewish people. The liberalism is ingrained in their bedrock DNA. And I think liberalism cuts short the strength and pragmatism of conservatism, which to me is age-old, time-tested principles. What works, you stay with. So, but these days we're in bed. Look what happened when we got involved with Vietnam. We wanted to stop communism from encroaching into Southeast Asia. Couldn't speak the language. They didn't want us there, except for that crooked president and vice president. And so we wanted to keep them from being ravaged by the ills and malice of communism. Okay, fine. How did that work out? Well, the Jew press finally wrote so much nastiness about us soldiers, and that does include me as an infantryman back in '67, that we got home and we were spit on and denounced as evil. But we didn't kill children. We were trying to stop the communists from killing children, because that's what they were. And because if you don't give me part of your rice crop there, Mama-san, you and your family go missing in action. And so that's what we were there to try to protect. But the policies were so upside down, the Jew press just absolutely didn't understand it or just wanted to raise hell, stir the dust. The hippies were out there smoking dope, and they didn't know what side, how to even put their goddamn underwear on, much less get to understand why we were there in Vietnam. And guess what? And guess what? Because we were in bed with these people where we shouldn't have been in the first place, that whole area is communist now. Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, it's all run out of communist Hanoi in North Vietnam. We lost 55,000 American boys dead. For what? And then we're doing it again, and then we do it again in the Middle East, and then we do it again in here and there and everywhere else, and then we do it with in Ukraine. If we don't watch out, we'll eventually get pulled into that mess, and that will be World War III, because we aren't taking George Washington's advice. We're mixed up in the quagmire of other people's bias, hate, malice, ignorance. It's just absolutely unfathomable. And where the hell was I going with that one? I was going to ask you to say unfathomable 10 times quickly. Well, so anyhow, that's what we run into with the UK and NATO. And, we get all these people promising the world, and then we spend huge amounts of money to support these. Look at the trillions that idiot Biden is spending to support the Jew-run Ukraine nation. Jew-run Ukraine nation, ladies and gentlemen. It's the same situation run by the same people that run Israel. Truth. And this advice came from America's finest president, George Washington. Let's do trade with these people, but let's not get in bed with them. But my little voice here at the Lion's Gate is not that influential. Yet, who knows? I hope my message becomes popular. I know it has with the people I have spoken with personally, like over a brewski or something. I just met a fella that was in town here a couple of weeks ago riding through. He said, "Steve, you are an unforgettable character," in his farewell text to me. Former rocket scientist, Doug Rogers, and a true adventurer. He was living in San Francisco when Nancy Pelosi was running the ship. He voted for her. He now kicks himself in the ass because he is he's a born again patriot. He understands the fallacy of democracy, not of democracy, but of the Democratic Party. I don't think he's there really with the GOP, but he's more in line with the age-old, time-tested principles. So, but, you know, with these Orwellian terms, you can't really say much without getting in trouble. Communication has been handcuffed. You know, you're looking at words like choice and hate and Jew. Where's the choice that the, so a person will say, well, so you're denying somebody their choice? Well, yeah, but where's the child's choice? So the whole story is never really there. How about homophobe or misogynistic, racist, or Mexican even? You know, you can't say these words without somebody scrutinizing you and calling you a name like this, because they don't like your conversation and you remind them of the First Amendment, but, you know, they say they believe it, but they don't. Like, I'm having a problem with my HOA. Some people came up next to me. I was on my patio cleaning, tidying things up. They were thinking about buying the place next to me, between me and the common area, between us and them. And we were talking. Nice, friendly conversation on a Saturday morning. I said, are you Mexican? Well, she looked at me with a little scorn in her eye. And we talked a little bit more. I said, are you here legally? See, now a lot of people would never ask that anymore, right? I think it's a pretty common sense question. What's wrong with it? You see? I don't have problems with different people being here or living next door to them. People want to be married to them. I couldn't care less. But rules are rules, and it's all a matter of following rules. And so the HOA, they called the police. Harassment. Well, that's the. Have you ever had problem with your HOA? Are they giving you everything that you promise? If I could hear you right now, I'd hear a resounding no. These people can be scoundrels, and you can't go after them because they've got their lawyers, and there's really not much into what you can, win in court, other than I've been now doing my homework, and I think breach of contract might be pretty good. There's some pretty good punitive damages there. But, the cop whose name was Grazia, Okay, now Grazia is not a German name, isn't it? Is it? It's not Polish or Jewish. Grazia, it's Hispanic. And so he wrote in his narrative that Steve Horner, he asked these people, "Are you Mexican?" And then he put the word Mexican into quotations marks, as if, oh wow, he really said that. Whoa, I mean, like when people ask me where I'm from, I say, well, my mother's, French Canadian. My father came from, areas that are now called Germany, and so I guess we would be white people from Canada and Europe. Now that makes me proud. So apparently these people aren't very proud of their heritage, but I know that actually some of them are. But you see, those are the types of things that get us in trouble and keep us silent, handcuff our conversation, because we get in trouble with our wives and our spouses and our families. When people that are running for president right now and they're saying, using scare tactics, are we losing our democracy? Let's clean up the swamp. I love Trump. And he is right about it. It's a horrible swamp. And I think that what he's talking about is a lot of what I'm professing too. But so many of them are saying, well, the ship has crashed. It's in the ice. It's hit the iceberg. It's going down. And I think it's a scare tactic. Mike Pence, on the other hand, tells his audience, but is it a scare tactic or is it telling the truth? I think it now is bordering on telling the truth for the reasons I've just told you. We're handcuffed. There's no guts out there. People are in debt high. You don't want to lose your job. You don't want to use these Orwellian terms. You don't want to be able to have a civil and meaningful conversation with your neighbor or friend or employee or even spouse without being called names. Mike Pence, on the other hand, former vice president, says, I have faith in the American people. And I'm saying, really, Mike? I think that sounds like bullshit. That sounds as much as the scare. That sounds as wicked as the scare tactic saying we are losing our democracy. I think Mike Pence is using another suck-up strategy. A lot of people will, why do we have faith in the American people right now? They can't read or write. They can't add or subtract. They can't get their nose out of their their digital equipment and give you a good eye-to-eye conversation. I think, and our nation is buried in the deepest quagmire of debt in history. Crime soaring, genders and races at each other's throats, being fueled by those ambulance chasers, those black so-called leaders who are milking civil courts for millions because some kid once again resisted arrest and ended up getting shot. These civil lawsuits pitting class against class, domestic violence sky high, parenting shot, public school performance dismal at best, busted immigration borders. And so, Mike Pence, didn't you learn anything from your 4 years with the second best president of the United States, Donald Trump? Don't you understand that the swamp is full of monsters, bad things, and handcuffs that are keeping you shut up? Don't you realize that? You got to get to the source of the problems, and that's what I'm talking about here at Steve's Cottage, okay? We got issues with women. Look at all the cities that they run. They're all underwater. And look at the press. Look at the Associated Press and Hollywood. Look at how that's infected the minds of young, all run by Jews. Race problems? Nope. Behavior problems. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'll tell you, I don't know where this 25 minutes went. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep your perch high and strong there at the gates of freedom as a hellfighter. And You can let them in, but you have to have a face-to-face good conversation with them first. So meanwhile, as you're traversing those trails of life and you're trying to reach the top of the mountain, get off that well-beaten trail now and then and get into the seldom used trail. It'll give you better rewards, a better memory, and a better look back. So for now, this is Steve. Have a great time in life.
Thanks for joining us. Visit Steve's Cottage again with Steve Horner.